There are people out there that don't understand even the most basic mathematics. But there are some of them thinking that they do understand mathematics and think it's completely wrong in itself. This is an example of an FE'er that barely seems to have graduated prep school. There's a video posted by Chippy the Chipmunk with the title Why does Google Earth Pro say the radius is 6,250 miles? Well, the moron has tried to measure in Google Earth the radius of the Earth. It doesn't matter much, but he has 2,203 subscribers and now has disabled all the reactions. He must have found out how stupid he is. One of his followers says that the circumference of the Earth must be 4 times the radius, and that P therefore equals 4. But even then the circumference would have to be 8 times the radius. In that way she makes 2 blunders in one sentence. I am not going to spend much time on this. As a matter of fact, I won't spend any time on it. Then there's a guy by the name of Cae Sar. He thinks he has the solution to the problem of the curvature of the Earth. What does he do? He says the circumference of the Earth equals 40,040 kilometers, so a quarter of that length is 10,010 kilometers. In this 10,010 kilometers the Earth drops 6,373 kilometers, the radius of the Earth. So the average drop is 6,373 kilometers divided by 10,010 kilometers is 0.6 kilometers per kilometer. This formula he uses to calculate the drop of the Earth. Remember the part of the graphic representation of an equation in my last video? The graphic representation of the equation y equals 0.6 times x is a straight line like this. So the drop of the curvature of the spherical Earth develops along a straight line, which so much means as living on a sphere looks remarkably like living on a pyramid. In fact, it is the same. No need to say that he reaches ludicrous conclusions. The drop over 1 kilometer would be 600 meters. That's a slope of 31 degrees. Doesn't he ask himself how people could believe that they are living in such a world? And then he shows the work of someone who has gone through the trouble of drawing the drop of curvature in AutoCAD. There the drop over 6,371 kilometers, the radius of the world, comes out at 6,371 kilometers. He doesn't understand that. His formula says that you reach this drop only after 10,000 kilometers, showing his utter stupidity and his inability to think along coherent lines and connecting what he sees with what he says. He even has the audacity to state that something must be wrong with AutoCAD, a drawing program he has never heard of and didn't even take the trouble of googling. No need to state the number of his subscribers, but, well, why not? 11,000. But the worst of all is Jeranism. In this video fragment he states that the 8 inch per mile squared isn't right. Listen how he proves that and how he comes up with this hilarious form of mathematics in order to give us the right answer. I'll stop the video here and there to add my comment.
You guys told us that it's 8 inches per mile squared, but that it's only good up to a quarter of the globe. So how can that be the correct formula for the curvature of the entire Earth?
It's because if you go any further than the radius of the Earth, there is nothing left to drop to.
Let me try and explain what I think the curvature should be. So here you're looking at somebody who just walked from the North Pole to the South Pole. Obviously following the white arrows, he went around the globe, but he is now completely 180 degrees different from when he started. He started standing upright, now he's standing upside down. So an engineer told me if we draw a line from our 2 points on the globe surface, so you'll see I drew one at about 12 o'clock and one about 2 o'clock, and connected those with the line segment A, then the distance between A and the surface, which is marked as line B, would be the curvature. Would you agree with that?
I could agree with that if you are using this knowledge further on, which he doesn't. I think he only mentions the engineer to give his video some credibility.
If so, then we'll take a new line, we'll call that D, from the North Pole down to the South Pole, and we'll call the line R for the radius going from the middle out to the surface of the globe. So now that would mean that if you walked from the North Pole down to the South Pole, you went over the amount of curvature that is R, which is the radius. Not really sure how this can be disputed. Seems right. You definitely went up and over the 4,000 mile hill, so I could see it being 4,000 miles of curvature in 12,500 miles traveled. Now if we wanted to complete and go through the whole globe, we just continue on our way back up to the other side, and there that means that we went through 7,917 miles of curvature.
Well, it doesn't sound right. He says that going the whole circle round means that you went through 7,970 miles of curvature. That's a complete empty statement. So what he's trying to let us believe that if you are going around full circle and being back at your place of origin, we cannot see ourselves because there are 7,970 miles of curvature between me and myself. This is a clear-cut example of misusing definitions. The curvature is the measure with which the surface is curving away from us. It's not an absolute measure that can be added up to infinity. He is replacing the word drop in its definition by the word curvature and thinks he proves something. But it gets even worse.
And so if we wanted to figure out the curvature of the entire ball, we would just do 2 pi r, which equals 24,862. Then take that 7917 and divide it by the circumference, which is 24,862, and we get 0.318. Let's see if this sounds right. So you'll see I use the red marks to mark off 8 sections of the globe. So it's 8 different sections, so we take 24,862 and divide it by 8, which gives us 3107. So that's 3,107 miles traveled in between each of the red segments. And if we take that and we multiply it by the 0.318, we get 988. Well, 988 sounds about right for the miles of curvature in each section of 3107.
In the first place, he has simplified the problem by going halfway around. That liberates him of doing the math on the original drawing given by the engineer. I'll help him out. For a section of 45 degrees, he divides the circle in 8 sections. The distance f, this is called the sagitta, equals 484 kilometers or 301 miles. That's rather less than the 988 miles he comes up with. How is that possible? For a section of 22.5 degrees, the distance would be 121 kilometers or 75 miles, where his calculation would give it at 494 miles. In reality, doubling the distance along the surface will quadruple the measure of curvature.
And if we take that 988 and multiply it back out by the 0.318, of course we get the 7917, which is the exact diameter of the Earth, which is double the radius, which is the curvature of each half.
What he does here is showing that if you divide A by B, you get C, and when you then multiply C with B, you get A again. Why he is so proud of that is beyond me, but later on he's doing it again.
So, when you look at it that way, it starts to make sense. Now we can actually figure out what the curvature of the globe would be, and it is preposterous. Again, it is simply a deception. Math always has formulas that work for whatever they're trying to do, but in this particular case, just measuring the curvature of a circle, there's no way to figure out the curvature of a circle all of a sudden. Now we can only do a quarter of it.
What he does here is constructing a straw man. He formulated an entirely wrong definition of curvature. Well, he didn't formulate it verbatim, he just implied it. Made such a huge mistake in showing how you would have to calculate it. And now he says that official mathematics can't do that?
I thought math was reality. And I'll leave you with this, why I think it possibly could be the hidden math equation of all time.
Now watch it. He's going to unveil the hidden math equation of all time.
Why have we never heard about 0.318? Did you know that you can take the circumference of any circle and multiply it by 0.318 to get the radius? Try and find that online. It's that simple. How about 1 divided by 3.14, so 1 divided by pi is 0.318, and 1 divided by 0.318 is pi. Now this works on any circle. If you were to take a 25-foot circle, the amount of curvature is 0.318 feet per foot of circumference.
And then he does it again. Since the circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times the radius, and his formula for the curvature is the circumference divided by twice the radius, what would you expect other than that this outcome is the inverse of pi, which it would be by definition? To be sure, I'll show it. The circumference O equals 2 times pi times r, where r is the radius. According to Jeranism, the curvature C equals 2 times r divided by the circumference O. So C equals 2 times r divided by 2 times pi times r. Cleaning things up gives us C equals 1 divided by pi. In mathematics we are then used to say quod erat demonstrandum, which was to be proven. This is basic mathematics, but Jeranism thinks he invented a whole new form of mathematics. The parts he did invent are useless, seriously flawed, and utter nonsense. Need I say more? Need I say that he confuses curvature with drop? Need I say again that an equation in the form he makes it to be is called a linear equation, resulting in a linear graphic representation, and that therefore globe earthers would have to be living on a pyramid? Need I prove some more how utterly disgraceful this piece of kindergarten mathematics is? I think that it's not worth the paper I would be writing the equations on. Regrettably, his statement that the 8 inch per mile squared equation is wrong can now be found all over the internet. It will just take a little longer before we will find the equation drop equals distance times 0.318 all over there.
Less than 3% of you people read books. Because less than 15% of you read newspapers. Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. Right now, there is an entire generation that never knew anything that didn't come out of this tube.
It doesn't matter how much subscribers he has, but there are a whopping 44,000 people who do believe him blindly. Isn't it horrible?